Lake Baikal in southern Siberia. A mythical place. Its shores are home to a people that still lives according to centuries-old traditions and rituals. The Buryats.
As a shaman, I can do anything. Good things and bad things, there's both in life. I can eliminate envy and the evil eye.
The rivers rising in the eastern Sian Mountains are the region's lifeline. The people here have to use the short, hot summers to prepare themselves for the long winters. Alexander Nemayevich Ogonov is one of them. He's a farmer, spiritual leader, and chief of a clan that live very close together. His family has 7 children and 14 grandchildren to date.
We help each other with everything. I think it's strange when a family only has a few members.
The Buryats used to be a nomadic people, but Stalin's regime forced them to settle. They have, however, managed to hold on to their faith.
Everyone believes him and he helps you achieve harmony in your soul. He warns us and knows what's in store for us. He can settle any argument and help with the big questions of life.
The Tunka Valley lies at the eastern tip of Buryatia, a good 80 kilometers from the shores of Lake Baikal. The holy man to whom this shrine is dedicated is called Nugan. Everyone who passes here has to make a small sacrifice. That's also true for his incumbent successor. Alexander Nemayevich Ogonov. He's a shaman in the 11th generation. The village where he lives is also called Nugan. It's a small settlement with just over 70 houses. It's the beginning of August. It's the busiest time of year for Alexander and his family.
We're taking the boat to the hay harvest, to the other side of the Irkut. My sons, grandsons, and a few relatives are coming with me. There'll be around 10 of us. We have to be finished by the end of September.
The Irkut River is around 1 kilometer from the village. The huge hay fields of the Ogonov family are on the other side.
I have 2 tractors, but you need help with the manual work. None of my relatives have tractors, so we get together to help each other. In the winter, we prepare the firewood, and in the summer, the hay.
In the high summer, the Irkut carries so little water that the men can cross it with just a 3-meter steering rod. But the boat is their only option. The nearest bridge is more than 70 kilometers away. The river rises in the eastern Sayan Mountains and flows directly into Lake Baikal. The Organovs built 2 small huts on its shores more than 60 years ago. They're their summer homes. Alexander's school-aged grandchildren spend the hottest time of year here. In the winter, 9-year-old Duga goes to boarding school. He then spends months living more than 400 kilometers away from his family.
That's in Shelikhov, in Irkutsk Oblast. But in the summer, I'm here. August is my favorite time. I can go to the hay harvest and go fishing.
The Organovs' farm is one of the largest in the area. During the hay harvest, the women look after the farm on their own. Alexandra is one of Alexander's 5 daughters. She spends the summer with her parents even though she doesn't live at home anymore. She lives in Kiran, a nearby settlement.
I prefer to work here. I can still spend time with friends and I don't like going to nightclubs anyway.
Meat is the staple food of the Buryats. They've kept horses, cattle and pigs for centuries.
This is a Buryat dish called posen. First, you make minced meat from beef and pork, and then you add the seasoning. We cook for the whole family, and during the hay harvest, when the men are there too, then we can make 170, 180 dishes.
Yagalma, Alexander's eldest daughter, was able to make posen before she even went to school. The preparations for the long winter start in August. The homegrown vegetables are pickled. In February, when the biggest Buryat festival takes place, Alexander's wife, Yelena Ogonova, always has many guests.
We need the most for Sagalovka, which is our traditional New Year's celebration. We celebrate it in February, and during that time we always have a full house. Family and friends come and go, and the table is always laid for 15 days.
Until that time, the food supplies have to be well stored. There's a hole in the ground under the kitchen floorboards. It's the ideal place for the pickled veg. It's always nice and cool there in summer. And in winter, the hole is always heated by a small stove so that nothing freezes. The people in these remote regions have always let themselves be guided by spirits and deities. In their belief system, Nugan Tabai is the most powerful spirit of the eastern Sayan Mountains. As soon as he puts on the simple leather belt, farmer Alexander Nemayevich Oganov becomes the shaman whose sacrificial gifts let him communicate with Nugan Tabai and other spirits. It's a ceremony that marks the start of the hay harvest every year.
우리를 한 것을 보는 힘다 안절에 시에가 저르고 모르고 슛는 힘다 와랑부터로 아무런 담원 대왕 아주 것들은 어럭스테 백엔 돌고 그저 바람부터로 저르고 모르고 그 자리 보는 힘다 가다 그러고 들가라 그러고 있다 그렇게 저러면 붙을 때 아무런 담원 대왕 아주 것들은 붙긴 돌고가 도난가 어느 힘도 와 홀란드 가르라 열 저르고 모르고 슛 자리 보는 힘다 가다 그러고 들가라 그러고 있다 그렇게 저러면 붙을 때 오늘 제가 오늘 어럭스테 약간 들어오는 힘도 업데이트 혹은 들어오고 살아서 그러겠다 그자 아무 그러고 서강 전에 대적은 힘다 만족한 사이트에 대해서 알탕 약한 것이 대적을 지원하 대자 대자 알탕은 거로서 별걸 살고는 힘다 가다 그러고 뜻가라 그러겠다 그자 알탕 약한 한 거에 있나 가트 컨트라바드라 스틱스 약한 한 거에 있나 탱크 컨트라바드라 살고는 힘다 가다 그러고 뜻가라 그러겠다 그렇게 들어가는 부터 아무런 문제 아무런 대응 약간 들어오는 힘다 그냥 그렇게 들어가니 물은 붙긴 들어오고 가라 그러겠지 가라 그러겠다
His mantras make him the mediator between the worlds.
그냥 그렇게 들어가니 물은 약간 들어오고 가라
We've just prayed to our gods that everything goes well for the hay harvest, that none of the machines break down, and that we can all work quickly together, and that the weather stays good. That's what we asked our spirits for.
The smoke, blessed by Alexander Oganov, is meant to prevent the men from injuring themselves during the hard work they're about to do.
Our ancestors have done it this way since time immemorial, and we're maintaining this tradition. And our children and grandchildren will do the same after us.
Buryatia, an area the size of Germany, is home to around 1 million people. The Russian Orthodox Church plays a subordinate role. The people here tend to be adherents of Tibetan Buddhism, but shamanism dominates them all. The wooden posts, reminiscent of the time when the Buryats still lived as nomads and moved their livestock from pasture to pasture, are called serga. No Buryat is allowed to casually pass them by because they're said to be home to spirits that have to be assuaged.
The most important thing for a people is to recognize your own roots and traditions.
The rider is called Simid. He's Alexander Oganov's nephew. Like all Buryat people, he learned to ride as a child. Simid is assessing his herd. In winter, he sells its meat to nearby restaurants and canteens. That's why their breeding is a kind of life insurance policy for him. They're his only source of income, as he's otherwise unemployed.
We're a nomadic people. Our ancestors have always kept animals. In summer, we moved the big herds on the pastures in the mountains. They live there from the beginning of June to the end of September.
Поля, зерно, табун и скот спускаем.
Irkut is a Buryat word and means come to me. Now in August, the river shows its most beautiful side. But Alexander's grandchildren don't have eyes for the beauty of their surroundings. They're sorting out thistles in boiling weather. Even though Timur spends most of the year at boarding school and is only home for a few months, he also knows about his grandfather's influence.
Shamans are supernatural people. They can fend off disease and they help people. I'm glad that my grandpa is such a well-known shaman.
The temperatures go up in the late afternoon. It's now more than 30 degrees. Short and very hot summers are typical for this part of Siberia. An exhausting climate for Alexander too. The Irkut is both a freshwater source and a bath in one. Nobody here has running water.
Далеко не заплывайте.
The Buryats are members of the Mongol people that Genghis Khan united. Every one of the men here owns his own herd. Alexander Ogonov has a good 70 horses to his name.
We wash the horse because it's hot. Sometimes we play around when we have the time. We used to do everything with horses. But now that we have so many machines, horses are becoming less important.
Having the children educated in boarding school is free, a remnant of Soviet days. They're gone from home for several months. In turn, they enjoy the summers with their families all the more. It doesn't bother them that they don't have much space here.
There's nothing difficult about it. There are more and more of us every year, but it's not bad. We've never had problems.
In August, there's an additional hut next to the main house that can be used, but it's still cramped for the Ogonov family with its 23 members. That's why the men eat first and only then the 14 children. The 6 women eat last.
Пожалуйста. Thank you.
During the hay harvest, the women are often alone on the farm for days.
When the men aren't here, it's hard to chop the firewood or carry it into the house. But we all help each other. The children help. We do everything together.
The faith of the Buryats says that even the tiniest plan carries the soul of the great spirit Nugantabai. In Alexander's family, the ability to communicate with spirits is handed down from grandfather to grandson. He had his awakening 18 years ago.
I had the shamanic illness, and a spirit then approached me at night and whispered into my ear. I started after that, just like my father and my brother. He died at 57, and I took over from him.
It's not certain who will be his successor. He only became a shaman in his early 40s. Before that, he ran the local collective farm. It was also during that time that he got his tractors, which are all more than 50 years old by now. Since the collapse of the Soviet Union, none of the men have had work. That makes the hay harvest all the more important. Livestock is their only source of income. They transport the hay on simple wooden sleds that they pull across the frozen river in the winter.
The hay is for the animals, the sheep, horses and cows. What can you do in a village other than keep animals? You can't live off potatoes alone.
Kirin is the biggest settlement in the surrounding area. The collapse of the Soviet Union hit such remote places the hardest. A lot here is still a reminder of days gone by. The omnipresent memory of the Great Patriotic War and the rusty amusement park are just two examples. Evidence of a time in which almost everyone had work in a collective farm. A time before they turned to vodka instead. Bayer, Alexander's son-in-law, was also unemployed, but he recently became the owner of a truck.
People drink often and a lot. Why? Because of the unemployment. If people had work, they wouldn't do that.
Produkti is what the people here call their corner shop. It sells everything the people need to live.
We come here a fair bit in summer. In the winter, we have our own meat and potatoes. Then we rarely go shopping.
Like everywhere in Buryatia, small wooden huts shape the landscape in Nugan. But modernity has arrived here too. Every house has a television. Everyone has a mobile phone. Moving the people into log cabins was a forced measure by the Stalinist regime in the 1930s. A nomadic people can't be controlled. More than 10,000 Buryat nationalists were killed or banished to prison camps. Many of them were shamans. Belief in the Tengeri, the nature spirits, and the Burshan, their deity, got the Buryat people through this period. The collapse of the Soviet Union robbed people of their work on the collective farms. Now they all try and get by as best they can.
We feel like a hamster in a wheel. But as long as my legs will carry me, I'll get by. But it's tough.
The huge birch forests in Buryatia seem to go on forever. Only Alexander's cousin has stayed behind in the summer hut in order to cook for the men in the field.
It's said that meat is the favorite food of the Buryat people. We can't live without meat. The men come home from work and they're tired. They need lots of calories.
Buryat soup is on the menu today, meat with potatoes and onions. Suddenly, the weather turns bad. In just minutes, the temperature drops by 10 degrees and it looks like rain. That means the men have to stop working. Much to the joy of Simid's dog. Alexander gathers the hay with 2 sons, 6 nephews and 1 cousin. All of the men own a lot of horses and cows that need to be fed over the long winter.
We won't get anywhere with just 1 or 2 of us working. We have to work together. Then we can do it faster. When we finish the hay harvest at the end of September, we'll see to the wheat. We have work until the start of winter, until the white flies, as we say here.
The men can sleep under thin blankets at the moment, but the first night frosts will come in mid-September. According to legend, the Mongol Emperor Genghis Khan loved this part of his enormous realm more than any other. The Oganov family own more than 40 cows, but their milk yield is significantly lower than that of their European counterparts. They only give 2 to 3 litres of milk a day. German high-performance cows give up to 19 litres.
When we've milked the cows in the mornings, they go away on their own to graze, and in the evenings, when their udders are full again, they come back.
It rained all night. They can't harvest hay today. But Alexander Oganov and his family are using the time to continue building their new house, just a stone's throw away from the old one.
We have to be able to do everything. Our parents taught us as children how these houses are built. That's part of our tradition, and we're continuing it.
The gaps between the thick wooden planks will be covered with the moss that grows everywhere here. It's woman's work.
Of course, we're happy that we have a bigger house now. Father is building it for himself and his grandchildren. We have a big family and we all fit in here.
29-year-old Nadia from Ulan Ude is asking Alexander for help. It's spiritual life guidance the people want when they come to him. Alexander can't provide healing in the medical sense. The vodka bottle had to stand next to Nadia for one night. Her thoughts and dreams were to gather in it and tell the shaman about her immediate future. Together with the pastries, the remaining vodka is payment for his work. The ritual lasts a good half hour.
After that, my aura vanishes. I get tired and have to recover.
When we have problems, we often turn to shamans or lamas. That comforts the soul and gives us moral support when we lose courage and things aren't working. It helps. It opens the way. It's as if the way of life is closed and the shaman opens it again.
The Buryats call Lake Baikal the Sacred Sea. It's the oldest, deepest and largest freshwater lake on Earth. Obos, sacred places, where shamans have been buried, are everywhere. Everyone donates what they've got spare. Everyday objects, food, cigarettes, loose change. And especially vodka. This courier is familiar with the significance of this place.
We had a woman shaman here many years ago. She was the strongest shaman. This is called the crossing of the four lines. You're not allowed to drive past. You have to stop and give a gift, and as much alcohol as you've got with you. You drink 100 grams, and then you carry on.
He comes past here up to 4 times a day. The Buryats were mentioned for the first time in writing in the year 1240. In those days, there were around 30,000 of them. Now, with more than 400,000 members, they're Siberia's largest ethnic minority. Their sense of community has always been strengthened by the great ritual, a bow to the ancestors, the family and the home.
We live in the north, but this is the home of our father, and we have to come here to honor our ancestors and our gods. We've got all our relatives together.
The political changes in Russia have given shamanism new steam. Because it gives people support in politically and economically uncertain times.
In Soviet times, these traditions were kept secret. Our parents had to do it secretly. Worshipping spirits wasn't allowed.
The ritual that starts with the ritual slaughter of a sheep is called hereg. Its meat and offal are shared out, the bones and skin burned. Eating the mutton together unites the family and blesses it.
It's preserving the Buryat culture. We're continuing the tradition. We're the third Nazarayev generation. That's Uncle Valera Nazarayev. He asked the shaman to conduct this ceremony for us.
It takes more than 2 hours to skin and gut the sheep. It's not just the meat, but also the offal that are considered a special delicacy. Alexander is free in the design of his spiritual rituals, but he has to stick to a few basic rules.
The meats and joints and everything have to be laid out in the same position as the animal was when it was alive. If we make a mistake, it could be that we go to the netherworld. The spirits see that. Or we lose an arm or a leg, or go blind.
Typical of the Buryat log cabins are the pretty flower gardens and the strikingly painted blinds. It was true in the past, and it's still true now. The bigger the family, the more highly it's regarded. And it's still true that it's exclusively the women who are responsible for raising the young.
We teach our children that everyone helps everyone here. They should see that we meet and help each other so that they do the same in the future.
We're back at the great ritual. A toast to the well-being of the Nazarayev family.
Dear relatives and fellow Buryats, I wish you all health and happiness on this day, and I hope your families are well, and I want to congratulate you on this wonderful day.
At the end of the family celebration, the young men test their strength, just like in the days of Genghis Khan.
It's an ancient Buryat fight. We've always fought to test our strength. It's a three-point fight, which means that two parts of the body are allowed to touch the ground, but not a third. A leg and the head is fine, but not then also a hand.
It'll be a long time before the Nazarayev family come together in this way again. The clan is spread out all over Siberia. It's the evening in the Tunka Valley. Time to stop working for the day. Just 2 of Alexander's 14 grandchildren are girls. It's still the case that in Buryat, the birth of a son counts more than that of a daughter. There's good news in the Oganov household. And for the children, that means sweet treats. And Posen, of course. The adults drink vodka, of course. During the time of the collective farms, Alexander always drank a lot of vodka. Today, he only drinks Russia's national drink on special occasions. Alexander is toasting with his son-in-law, Bair, who has found work as a courier after spending a long time out of work.
We've gathered here today because our son-in-law has bought a new car. And we're here to celebrate that. We're going to drink to that. Only the adults. The others are still too young.
In its pure and original form, shamanism is an indispensable part of Buryatia. But when it comes to his own family, Alexander Oganov can't contact the spirit world.
My own children? I can't hold a session for them. I'm just the head of the family here, an aksakwal. I can give advice, or chester someone, or praise them, but nothing more.